Precious Chickadee. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning, and Vanguard is leading with May Day. Labour gives federal government May 31 deadline on minimum wage. Riders says to conclude talks, insist on 615,000 naira wage demand, threatens total shutdown if places 18-point demand before federal government, condemns hike in electricity tariff, demands reversal within 1 week. We're working on new minimum wage, living wage, and that's coming from Tinubu. Resist anti-people tendencies. PDP charges workers. I stand with workers in solidarity, and that's coming from Peter Obi. Akpabio assures Nigerian workers of better welfare. Banks close 2 million accounts over BVN others. On May Day, governors promise better working condition, pay rise for workers. Insecurity, Matawale urges US to share intel on terrorism banditry. Nasima President Oye to speak at a Vanguard Economic Summit. We have a 1.5 billion liters of petrol to last 30 days, and that's coming from reps. And that's what we can take on the front page of Vanguard. Take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with Labour demands inflation-proof pay, frequent wage review. Minimum wage takes a backseat in Kano, Kwara as NLC marks May Day. Telcos losses, irregular levy remittance threaten NCC's 549 billion naira target. PDP chides Yedatiwa for budgeting 5 billion naira to renovate daycare centers. Super Eagle, how to support indigenous coaches to grow, win laurels. Duty exchange rate fueling uncertainty, adjusted 28 times in 2024 quarter one, says the CPPE. PDP rallies aggrieved members, targets 2027 presidency. 10 years after the shame of Chibok lingers on government, workers weary as federal government assures on May 1st date for new minimum wage. Take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with federal government promises living wage as NLC demands 615,000 naira. The rider says minimum wage payments will be backdated to April. TUC issues ultimatum on electricity tariff hike, and of course there's some speech quoted to who said what on president. He says wage issues shall be resolved soon, and I assure you that your days of worrying are over. The government is open to not just the minimum wage but a living wage. And from Labour says all the parties in the tripartite process are well represented and the engagement has been robust. We have placed our demand of 615,000 naira only before our social partners while we await their offer. And from Oshomola, it says the NLC should make realistic and affordable demands. It should not just center on minimum wage. It must engage the government on appropriate industrial policies. Stories above, we have jubilation as Transportation Minister flags of Port Harcourt Aba train service. And lastly, on the front page of the Nation, payment of 2.75 billion naira to property owners on Lagos-Calabar road begins. We take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with minimum wage, federal government labor talks deadlocked. NLC defends 615,000 naira demands. The writer says that Tinubu says government unions fail to reach consensus, assures workers of living minimum wage. Federal government frustrated negotiation, anything below 615,000 naira will make workers poorer, and that's coming from NLC TUC. Angry import Govs of 12 trillion naira despite 9 years anchor borrower scheme. Lagos uncovers under bridge apartments where tenants pay 250,000 naira rent. School months 14 years old British Nigerian killed in London sword attack. Federal government restricts Lagos bridges, sand miners licenses. A safe school initiative to cover all for campus hostels, and that's coming from Commander. Stories above, government expenditure rose by 33% in February, and that's coming from MPC member. Federal government gives a condition for gas license. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, fuel scarcity. Federal government plans a 15-day emergency fuel supply. And that's how we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining me, still today in the news on Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chickadee, and joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Oludari Mariwa, publisher of Global Financial Digest. Good to have you join me this morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Precious. Thanks for having me today.
All right, let's delve into what we have this morning. And of course, May Day, everyone is talking about it. And the organized labor has insisted on a 615,000 naira minimum wage, even as it's placed on 18 points demand before the federal government, threatening to shut down the country if the federal government fails to accede to their request by May 31. What's your take?
Thank you very much. First of all, the discussion is still ongoing between the Labour and the federal government committee or panel, whoever they are discussing with. And I'm sure by the end of the day, they probably come to a consensus on what should be the realistic minimum wage. Because what we are looking at, what is realistic, what the economy can absorb, and what will be the implication. Of course, like Labour has said, they have calculated what should be. And if I heard them clearly, they were saying that even 615,000 is on their rock bottom. In negotiation, we put a mark and probably mark it up, knowing fully well that discussion will bring it down to a particular level. And I'm sure that's the mindset they have going to that discussion. And I'm equally sure that the government delegates will be realistic enough to understand the state of the economy, the living conditions of workers, and what is realistic for them to pay. Notwithstanding that, we have to look at, when you are looking at what to determine the minimum wage, how possible the state government able to pay. We can recall that when it was fixed at 30,000 per minimum wage, many state governments were not able to pay. We know of some states like Osun who are paying half salary. We know of states like Kogi, for example, who are paying probably a quarter of the salary and never pay full salary for their workers because of their finance. We equally know that as a result of the deregulation of the downstreams, petroleum removal of subsidy and the rest, and the Naira devaluation, the state government has started receiving more money from federal account. So all these things have to be put into account in determining what minimum wage will be and what realistically. So federal government, Labour, have to carry all the state governments along in determining what should be the national minimum wage. Secondly, I would like to look at it from other perspective that states like Lagos and Zamfara or Borno or the remote part of this country should not operate on the same minimum wage level, because the living salary in Lagos is different from living salary in Borno or in Zamfara or in Ebonyi, for example. So realistically, we have to really juggle some of these statistics and ensure that each state will be able to arrive at what is comfortable for them to pay and what is realistic for their workers to earn.
All right. Do you think that the federal government has taken, the necessary measures to address the issues of minimum wage?
I will not say they have not taken necessary measures. It may look like they are slow in negotiation, but like I said, like I've explained, there are a lot of things to be considered in arriving at what should be a realistic one. If, for example, today the federal government accepted to pay 615,000 as a minimum wage, you know what will happen to the economy? There will be more money in circulation and putting pressure on the goods and services in the economy. Inflation will reach the roof. So government and the negotiator need to actually balance it. It's why we know that 30,000 naira is not sufficient to take anybody home any longer. Then they should not complicate the issue by just arbitrarily fix a rate that's not realistic, that will probably cause disruption in the economy. So for me, I think that the governments probably they are doing their best to ensure they maintain the balance and ensure that there's no upsetting the economy.
All right. So, in your own opinion, what steps do you believe is necessary to, ensure a fair and sustainable minimum wage policy moving forward?
I think what government need to do, in my own opinion, is that government should really work hard to ensure that they bring down the price of food and other items. For example, if they are able to curb banditry, terrorism, and kidnapping in the farm, the farmer can go back to the farm and produce more food. Then government should give incentive to people who are large-scale producers of food items. Because if the price of food crash today, then we have some level of reprieve from that angle. Then in terms of transportation, government should invest massively on infrastructure and provide bus service in most of the cities for workers. And if the price of transportation, for example, comes down, the price of fuel comes down, if we improve on local refining of fuel, I think we'll be talking, we won't be talking about 650,000 minimum wage. I think government should be more resilient in ensuring that they focus their policy in bringing down the food prices through encouragement of production, to improve productivities in the farms, and through encouraging more refineries to come to stream so that we can have local refining capacity and the fuel price may come to a level that could be bearing for the people. If government is able to do all of this, the issue of minimum wage or increasing arbitrarily will not arise. And I think the wage should be around within the range of 50 or 100,000 as a minimum wage. On the other hand, Nigeria could adopt the method in the Western world where the minimum wage is fixed per hour. So if you fix minimum per hour, it's probably more realistic that, okay, people want to work 8-hour shifts or more hours to earn more money. And there's benchmark to measure this thing. And that would probably be a realistic way of fixing our minimum wage and ensuring equity in terms of arriving at the figure.
All right. So aside from organized labor embarking on strike action, what are the potential implications if an agreement on the minimum wage is not reached by the deadline?
Definitely, the labor will want to embark on strike to probably campaign the government to take a definite action on minimum wage that will suit their leadership and the rest. But we have to all of us to consider the wider implication to the economy. If, for example, labor embark on industrial actions and disrupt productivity, disrupt activities in the economy, it will equally complicate what we are already going through. But if there is disruption in the economy today, will bring us back rather than moving on forward. So all these have to be taken into consideration by workers to ensure that while they are negotiating, they keep pushing the narration in their own favor without causing any disruption in the economy. I won't support any labor union embarking on industrial or strike action at this point in time. What they need to do is to keep pressing on their negotiation until they able to arrive on the consensus that will be able to involve both the economy, both the government and the workers.
All right, still speaking about May Day, now governors have commended workers on their resilience and promised to prioritize their welfare and ensure better working conditions, including pay rise. But my question is, how do the governors, intend to finance these proposed improvements, especially considering potential budgetary constraints?
I think some state governments are more buoyant now than ever before. And what we need to consider is the corruption that is creeping into the system. Because from gains from foreign exchange, foreign exchange adjustment, from deregulation of fuel subsidy removal, more money. Government have been sharing over $1 trillion every month compared to about half a billion, half a trillion they are sharing previously. So the income of state government have doubled in the last 1 year due to the policy reform of the government. So they are in a position to pay at least a better minimum wage for their workers. But what we are seeing today is that the more the governors and the governments of states have, the more looting we are experiencing. And something has to give way. We can't have the governors living larger than life, and those who are producing, those who are working for them, living in penury. We can see the state of the case of a Kogi state governor, for example. Although it has not been proven, it's an allegation from the EFCC. But we can see a state, according to EFCC, a state governor who pay over 11 years school fees for the children, whereas the state cannot pay the 30,000 minimum wage to their workers. The Kogi state government has not been able to pay the last 8 years complete salary for their workers. Yet the state government are messing up the state economy. So something have to, you have to tighten the economy to ensure that there's no loopholes. There's no possible single person to find out the state resources for personal use, and that's the loophole we need to We need to work with the legislators and all the stakeholders in the economy to ensure that we block all the loopholes, that the governor cannot singularly take so much money out of the system for personal use without being detected, without being exposed, without being stopped at that point.
All right, moving on now. According to reports, commercial banks in Nigeria closed about 2 million bank accounts in the first quarter of 2024 in efforts to clean their books of questionable accounts and comply with regulatory orders in linkage of bank accounts to NIN. What's your take? We have a data problem in this country, and one time they tell us, okay, go and get your NIN. Next time is voters card, and then we hear that in a couple of months they want us to do another one again. Like, how do we solve this, proper documentation, system in the country?
Yeah, this country we still have a long way to go when we look at all those things. Because the reason for BVN is to ensure that no people or no person open account in multiple names in any commercial banks. So it is very essential for us to recognize this thing. But BVN has not worked as it was intended. Intention was to curb this multiple rates, multiple accounts in the banks. But fortunately, that has not really happened. So we need to up the game. Technology has been so good to ensure that some of these malpractices in the system are caught. But I think human factors are mitigating against it. What we need to do, all the institutions charged with this responsibility, like CBN, for example, need to up their game to ensure that banks officials comply with the regulations, so that there won't be any rooms. There won't be any room for people exploiting loopholes for personal gain.
All right. What steps do you think the banks can actually look into in terms of assisting the affected customers? Because I mean, the bank seems to be the only one that we can actually rely on in terms of database to an extent. What do you think about that?
But I think if our accounts were deleted or whatever, the owner of the account have the right to confront the banks with the facts and figures, with all the necessary documents, so that the account can be recalled. So it's not rocket science. If your account is deleted, for example, inadvertently by error, by whatever, you can go back to the bank. Hey, I have money in your bank. My account has deleted unnecessarily. So the bank will rectify it and probably communicate when you submit all the documents necessary required for you and able to prove verification. Then you have the right to have your account back. So the bank does not have the right to do treasury with your bank or account. So the customer has the right in any way to actually rectify the wrong they have done against them.
All right, let's touch on Mr. and Mrs. before we go. And Mr. is speaking. He says, they are my friends, for crying out loud. Seems they have a problem, Mr. and Mrs. And Mrs. speaks on that and says, good for nothing comes. When I said I had left everything behind me, they're looking at my bum.
It's very funny scenario painted that place, really. Probably the husband was not aware of what was going behind it, really. And probably the wife was not maybe communicated to him effectively too. What's maybe I've been telling him to the body language, say this friend you are carrying around are not really your friend in a way. Probably that's an opportunity for her to actually tell the husband, say these guys are actually eyeing me, and it's in your best interest to actually desist from their company. Yeah, like I said, that's a communication that you need to go along in the home. Clarity is very important. Transparency is very important, and couple must understand their body language to respond to their yearning and their desire. It's a good work. Like I said, the cartoons speak volume that's many words, 1,000 words, in a way, and that's why it's a good way of actually going about it. I commend the person, like I always say, commend the person behind it.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Oludare Mayowa, publisher of Global Financial Digest. Thank you for sharing your thought with us this morning.
Thank you for having me today, and have a lovely day. And happy birthday once again.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah. Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. To find out today's stories, go to our website, www.vanguardindia.com, to find out more. I am Precious Chukuriye. Thank you for watching.